Hard Turn is presented by Overlake Medical Center and Clinics.
Life is full of big moments of change and transformation where we have to pivot on our path.
Those moments come with a wide variety of emotions, from fear and anxiety to joy and relief.
I'm Kelly Koopmans.
And I'm Mary Nam.
And this is Hard Turn.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on the Hard Turn podcast. It's a podcast about navigating, as the title suggests, the turns in life that happen to all of us, the little bumps that we all deal with in life and how we get through it, what we think about it, how we come out the other end, and how we move on. I'm Mary Nam.
I'm Kelly Koopmans.
And we are friends and colleagues, longtime coworkers here at KOMO TV in Seattle.
We are, yes, I would say both. I would say friends and colleagues.
The funny thing is we work opposite shifts.
I know.
So this meeting for this podcast is kind of a miracle.
It doesn't usually happen. In fact, we would see each other mostly outside of the workplace.
Yeah.
And here we are at a table with our microphones and our headphones, and I'm just excited to have conversation.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. Can I just tell people what our wacky schedule is like, though?
Please.
Because I think it adds some perspective to how unique this is. I work nights.
Mm-hmm. And what does that mean in the
It
news
means
world?
about 2:30 to midnight.
Okay.
And tell people your schedule, Kelly.
I work 3 a.m. to about noon-ish, depending on the day. And so the alarm goes off at 2.
Yeah.
So we are polar opposites.
Passing ships, as they say. We're passing ships.
Brought to one spot to have unique conversations about these pivotal moments in life and whatever that may be.
Right.
And it has a whole wide variety of people that we've had the privilege of speaking to.
Yeah.
And what I'm most excited about is talking with you, hearing from all these other people, and expanding our horizons and just having good conversation and connecting on that level. What are you serving up for us today?
It's about making friends. Will you be my friend?
You know what? Today. And
Oh,
every
today?
and every day, Marion, every day. No, but this is a juicy topic.
It is. And I love this topic because we have kids and we always give our kids advice, right?
Right.
Go make a friend. Go outside.
Don't
make some
shove that
friends.
up your nose.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make friends, that's not what you do. But guess what? Adults need friends too.
Absolutely.
We need friends. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to make friends. It's a whole new world out there, and we're all on our devices a lot. People work remotely. And if you think about it, college students, because of the pandemic, being remote in classrooms, and they graduate and then they take their first job and it's a remote job. Mm. It's hard to think about. How do you make friends when you're always by yourself?
Yeah.
And not by choice.
Right.
And so my guest today is a young woman. She's in her 20s. She's a working professional, SoCal native. Her name is Emmely Avila, and she's delightful. She was a delight to talk to, and she tackled this problem of making friends in adulthood head on.
And what a vulnerable thing to open up about, of maybe making an admission, it's hard to make friends.
It is. It really is, because it makes it sound like there's something wrong with you.
Please like me.
Exactly. And it's so silly because it's a basic need that we all have. And it doesn't go away because you turn 18 or you're 22 or you're 40 or 60. Humans are social animals. Mm-hmm. We need friends. We need relationships.
I mean, back in the day, we traveled in packs. Hunting, gathering. We did it as crews.
That's right.
And now we're so siloed in our own worlds because technology and advancements have made it very easy to do that.
And talking to her, it blew my mind. I consider myself a young person. I consider myself hip to the trends of the modern world. Mm-hmm. I have an iPhone.
But what model is it?
I don't know. Don't ask me that. But when Emmely gave me her background, it dawned on me that I didn't understand what it's really like right now. Take a listen.
Yeah, so actually I work remotely. And so all of my coworkers are either in India or all across the United States. None of my coworkers live in LA, actually. Surprisingly, I'm the only one that's in Los Angeles. And I mean, we see each other on meetings online, but no friendship actually comes from there just because we don't get to see each other in person. Yeah, and I've worked remotely since I graduated at school, because I graduated in 2020. So with COVID, I was forced to work remotely, and I love it. But yeah, making friends as a person who works remotely is extremely difficult. Where do I go to make friends?
Ugh,
You're hearing that for the first time. Tell me how you feel right now.
that feels very isolating. And I compare it to my workday. And what I feel so lucky of is, yes, I have my job. We come and we do the broadcast, and then we have interviews and other things in between. But in between all of that, I get to, during commercial, chit chat with Holly. Oh, what crazy thing did your kid do yesterday? Or something like that. Or, if you just walk into the newsroom like, hey, Mary, what's going on today? And to think that her day would essentially be held in meetings where you conduct business and then you log off. It would feel so sad to
breaks
miss
your
those
heart,
little
doesn't it?
stitches of connectivity.
Totally. And I instantly brought back memories of, think back to when we first graduated, your first jobs in those tiny, newsrooms, smaller cities, and you relied on your group, a whole bunch of people close, similar age from different backgrounds, and you're commiserating together. How was your day? Oh my gosh, my assignment was so tough. Oh, this broke. I did a horrible job at that. But there was always an outlet, physically face-to-face right next to you, ready to commiserate, share stories. Hey, let's go grab a drink, or let's, do you want to meet for lunch? And so many young people don't even have that opportunity.
It's like technology went too far. You think back to when we were a lot younger, and how would you get in touch with someone? You'd talk about, let's go meet up at 7-Eleven at 3.
Yeah.
And so you'd go and do that. Then texting made it a little easier. Oh, slight adjustment in plans, I'll be there at 3:30. But now it's like, you don't even have to do the meetup at 7-Eleven. You don't
have to leave the house.
Or you just text instead. And that's where you miss so much of that connectivity. You mentioned those first jobs.
Yeah.
I worked in Eugene.
Where would you be if you had no one in Eugene with you?
I don't know. I had Christina and I had Beth. And Christina and Beth are still two of my very good friends.
Oh, I love that.
And I feel so lucky for that, especially hearing Emily's experience.
Emmely, she decided to do something about it. And
I like her.
I give her a lot of credit. It's just she didn't like how she felt. She wanted to do something. She wanted to change the situation. So here's what she did.
Actually, I remember I was sitting on my couch, like swiping on Bumble BFF or trying to message people. And I just got kind of frustrated. I closed the app and I called one of my good friends who lives in Atlanta. Her name is Kaylin. And I was telling her about how I was frustrated by the Bumble BFF. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do a meetup. Like, I'm just going to start something. And I was like, my idea isn't original by any means, my meetup idea. I have been inspired by other women who've done similar things all across the country. And so I've seen it done before. So I was like, why can't I just do it myself here? Because there's not really anything like that in Los Angeles. But it was that moment on my couch where I was just swiping through.
This is what I learned, that there is a Bumble BFF app.
I wrote down on my paper, Bumble BFF question mark?
That's a thing.
So this is like dating but for friends, and you're
It's
swiping
just
for
for
friends?
platonic relationships. And I think my first thought is, wow, I'm going to be honest with you.
Really?
I don't know Bumble. I'm not familiar with Bumble. I know what it is. I'm from the Match.com era.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Before Bumble.
Right.
But I guess there is a market for this, to make friends, to meet people, make these meaningful platonic relationships. And so she was trying on Bumble BFF, and it just wasn't getting anywhere. So she had this idea, I'm just going to create a meetup and post it on social media and see who shows up.
Did people show up? That's what I want to know. Well, first of all, I really like her step. She has the guts to take the step to do this. And it's kind of like you're just waiting for someone else to do something.
That is so true.
And instead, she takes the initiative to just do it.
Yeah. And the other crazy part, Kelly, is she's in LA. There are a ton of people in LA. Mm-hmm. Just because you live in a big city doesn't mean it's not a lonely experience. I think it can even feel worse sometimes.
Where you have all those people around you, but you feel so alone.
And we have that here in Seattle. Mm-hmm. I mean, what do they call it? The Seattle Freeze?
Seattle Freeze. Mm-hmm. For people who are new to the city.
Yeah. I don't know if there's actually been a study, if there's ever been one, but I can see it.
Right.
I totally understand that. So she plans this meetup and posts it on social media, and we're talking TikTok and all the other pages. And I did ask Emmely, I said, okay, so you invite a bunch of strangers who all want the same thing and say, hey, let's all meet up at a park. I said, did people actually show up?
Right. I want to know, did they?
Yes. Dozens and dozens and dozens of people showed up. It was really cool. Here's how she describes how it went down.
It was super awkward at first because I didn't know what I was doing or what I was getting myself into, and nobody else did because it was the first event. But we ended up, it was a small group at first. It was a 3-hour-long event. So it was a small group at first, and we kind of just like stood in a circle and we were just talking about like, oh, my name's Emmely. I grew up in LA, or what's your favorite restaurant? We started asking different icebreaker questions to get people to talk. And we did that for about like 20 minutes. And then I think people felt more comfortable and started breaking off into smaller groups and kind of just flowing around to chat. I was so excited and I was so happy to see people talking to each other and seeing people exchange like social media accounts or phone numbers. That was cool to see that, that people wanted to actually see each other again or, try to make a friendship out of this event.
Someone give this girl a medal.
Oh my gosh, she deserves it. Here's what it kind of reminds me of, and I've had this experience since having kids, is when you go to a birthday party and the kids are all playing on the bouncy things, but your kid's not old enough where you just leave them there and you go do something else. And so you're standing there with all these other parents, and I can say I've had this coming out of COVID where you just kind of relied on the friends that you had. You could text them and talk to them. And now here I am with these people I have nothing else in common with other than I know they have a kid my kid's age. And then you start the small talk.
Oh, it's so hard.
And it's painful and I feel awkward, and it's a little bit of this social anxiety. But yeah, that lives in me. I do have that.
It's totally relatable. Mm-hmm. See, for me, I thought it was like I got that vibe where it's like a work team building exercise.
Sure, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Everyone has shown up. They are willing participants because they all want to make a friend.
They've all admitted,
right,
I would like to make more friends.
Yes. And it must have been like this out-of-body experience where you look around and you're all gathered at a park. No one knows anyone. But how brave of Emmely for organizing it, and all those people that showed up that had the guts to show up, because you don't even know the organizer.
Right.
Think about it. It's like, who else is going to be there? Are they even my type?
Right. To just show up and put themselves on the line.
It's such a cool thing. But man, when she described that, I thought, owie.
At Overlake Medical Center and Clinics, we offer the full spectrum of care for every stage of life. And with our skilled and compassionate physicians and care teams, it's so much more than a place to get better. It's where you can achieve a lifetime of good health. Welcome to Overlake, where your care is our passion. For more information, visit overlakehospital.org.
Would you go?
I thought about that. I would not go as a 40-something-year-old, but I see myself, I would have gone as a 20-something-year-old.
And what would stop you as a 40-something-year-old from going?
That's a good question. You know what it is? The older I get, the more selective I get. And not picky about the kind of friends, but what would connect us. Mm-hmm. So like what I mean by that is I don't have the time that I did when I was in my 20s now. So I started sewing. Right. It was a pandemic hobby I learned. And, I want to meet people who sew.
Are you going to tell our friends about your fish tank? Or should we save that as an Easter egg for later?
You know what? I'm just going to put this out there. I went from a dog person, I still am a dog person, to I am now and people in the know this, so I'm just going to say it, Kelly. You don't get it, but I'm just going to say it. I'm into planted aquariums.
Yes, she is, folks.
So if you are into planted aquariums,
hit her up.
It's my new hobby. I love it. Oh my God.
I think for me, it's the investment of the energy. I have a finite amount of energy, and now because I'm older, work takes up energy, my kids take up energy. I want to devote something to myself energy-wise, and then it just becomes a little bit smaller. So I get what you're saying in terms of not necessarily being more selective,
right,
but being very mindful of where I'm putting my energy.
Yes.
Into trying to form a connection that you hope is a connection that's going to last.
But the need is still there, though, right?
Absolutely.
Like for relationships, for meaningful conversation, for someone to laugh with or commiserate with. But to go back to that circle of adults at a park, You know, the one interesting thing was that didn't stop her, because that very well could have been a circle where, well, been there, done that. I tried it. It didn't work. Not this girl. Emmely, she kept going, and it was a gradual process.
Honestly, I was really overwhelmed after the first meetup. It was a lot emotionally. Like, my social battery was very full at first, and by the end of the day it was completely drained. But I was very happy, and I was excited for what was going to come out of it. For me, it wasn't what I was expecting. I found that after that first event, I was actually like in a position where I was hosting these events on a monthly basis and getting to talk to people, but it became difficult for me to still make really good friends because I was hosting the event. And I found myself just working the event instead of sitting down and getting to talk to people for, a long length of time to form a friendship. So it took a while for me to make my solid group of friends, but it happened. Like, we're good now.
It happened.
Yeah. And it wasn't instant. Like, that's the takeaway. It was, here's someone who wanted to do something about it. She did it. And then maybe in a fairy tale, it'd be like, and that's how she formed so many bonds and everyone met each other and it was great. But no, like, the takeaway for me was she had to do it over and over, like arrange these meetups over and over and over again. And these people, they had to keep trying too. And it's not instant,
But you think about in life, in some of the best friends that you make, it's not because it just happens one time you shake hands and you're best friends. It does take work. And I think that it takes two people wanting to stay in contact and continue to reach out to each other. So, I almost love it even more that it didn't just hit right off the bat and then voila, she had all these friends, because it takes some of that work and you want to feel someone put in the effort. And you're not going to be necessarily friends with every single person.
Exactly.
So it takes time to find the right person that you connect with. And it seems that her hunch that other people might want this too and came to this to find it, well, she was dead on, clearly.
Totally. And it's not clear. Obviously, it's not just in LA. I've talked to people in this building. I mean, younger people, new to Seattle. And it really is extraordinarily difficult to form bonds. The weird thing and the interesting thing is there are a lot of people that say the same thing, but the connections just aren't happening, And that's something that we can relate to, too, because it's not just about, hey, I'm new to town. Is there someone I can go to happy hour with? It can be any facet of our life, whether it's, we talked about when we first had our kids, maternity leave, you're home alone, feeling isolated. It could be job stress. You feel isolated. No one can understand things going on in your personal life. That feeling of loneliness is not unique.
Yeah, I felt it acutely during my maternity leave with my third child, because I've got my whole family here. I have that. I have my husband, I have my kids, and yet it's always kind of that social component that I also found that I need that cup refilled. And I don't know why this particularly came to mind one day. I think my sister was visiting me. She lives in California, and she's a very outdoorsy, adventurous type of gal. And she's like, Kelly, let's just go down to the lake. Let's just jump in and come back. And I thought, yes, I want to do that. And I told her after we did that, you're my sister, and I'm glad that we did this. I want to have a friend who is nearby in the neighborhood that I can call and not make huge time investment, but will you run down and jump in the lake with me? And then we just went and did a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about having that bar for what I'm looking for in a friend, but technology makes it so easy to have our friends in other cities and coast to coast. But having that person who's in your neighborhood that you can go do something silly with and juvenile with, like jump in a lake, that fills my cup in finding that person.
It made me think, to what you're saying, that maybe what we really need is that physical connection. One of my closest friends lives in Oregon. We talk multiple times a week. Yes, it's wonderful, and I'm so lucky. But it's that, what you were just talking about, like, go jump in a lake with me. Like, no, come like physically right next to me. Let's physically go out and do something. I think there's something special about that.
And the proximity.
Yeah.
Of not having to be a huge thing that you have to plan for weeks and weeks and fit it in the calendar, but just let's just take 15 minutes, do something together and feel like we made that connection.
A 15-minute walk.
There you go. Mary is maybe Sands Lake. With algae the way it is.
So I asked Emmely, I said, what you pulled off in LA, do you think it could work here in the Pacific Northwest? Or do you think it's a uniquely LA vibe kind of thing? And we talked about why existing meetups don't work, because it's not like they don't exist. We're talking like trivia nights at pubs, and we're talking, adult soccer leagues and softball games, and there are these things that do exist. How come those methods don't exactly build long-term, deeper relationships? Why doesn't that fill the void? Here's what Emmely said.
I think it works because the events that I host are like marketed for people who specifically want to make friends. And so they're coming to our events knowing that everyone else that's there is also looking to make friends. Whereas if you were going to, your local bar to do a trivia night, there's probably people that are already there who have their friends and their group of people and probably might not be open to doing trivia with a stranger. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but not everyone has that same mentality. So I think that's probably a big barrier for some. But also, I have a Discord server for our community, and people can join our Discord server and chat with each other based on different interests in the channels. And I think that helps a lot. For example, we have a foodies channel. So people will recommend a restaurant and 10 people will respond saying, hey, let's go check this out like tomorrow. And they'll go out to eat. So I think our meetups work because it's specifically a friend-making event. And we also have this other platform in place for people to keep connecting and reconnecting with each other.
Isn't that cool?
I love that.
Yeah. And when she talked about like the 10 friends and the foodie friends, like let's go to this new restaurant tomorrow, it's kind of like your whole like, let's go jump in a lake right now kind of thing.
Yeah, you got to find the people who are down for that.
Spontaneous friendships, spontaneous meetups.
When I first moved to Seattle, we joined a softball team, and we made some really good friends through that softball team. It brought in people that I otherwise would never have met. Mm-hmm. It went on for a very long time, and it was great, and I would consider a lot of those people friends. But then as people started to move, it was kind of like the softball was what brought us together.
Right.
And then when the softball stopped happening, some of those friendships didn't continue. Mm-hmm. And so I get that. Instead of having the softball as the charade of meeting friends, she's just very upfront with this meeting. No, the goal of this meeting is to make friends. And so no one's faking it through anything. Everyone's genuinely there for the same reason.
That is so cool. I think about how when I first moved to Seattle, I didn't know anyone. I didn't go to high school here. It's not really my hometown. It is now, decades in. But it made me think, well, what did I do? And it was a coworker who told me I was looking for a rental at the time. And she told me about this rental house at Green Lake. And one of her friends needed a new roommate. So I moved in. And I became friends with my new roommates. And through them, thanks to them, my social circle started to get bigger. And some of those people are my core adult friends, post-marriage, post-kids, even now. And it grew from these places that you spent the most time in. So for me, it was work. Mm-hmm. And it grew up that way.
Mm-hmm. I think about like childhood friends, college friends, work friends, and adult friends. Like those are kind of the genres. And I have a lot of good elementary school, like childhood friends, and high school. I think when I got to college, I was trying to be someone who would fit in with this group of people who were already there. And I think I was trying too hard to be what other people wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. And so I found some of those college ones didn't really stick like the ones that I knew earlier. But I think it's because I was missing a common thread to really connect me, because when I went to grad school, that's where I made my other really good set of core friends. And so I think it's about not putting pressure on ourselves of you must make this friend, otherwise, you're missing a key component of being a human, but allowing it to happen through some of those commonalities. And for me, the commonality was growing up here and having those early childhood experiences. Didn't hit so much in college. And then it did hit as I got older and knew myself better. And maybe that's what it comes down to, is just knowing ourselves better and being our true selves and not trying to force something.
And remembering that everyone has a different personality, right? So some people, my sister is a social butterfly. She has a million friends. I think I'm being literal when I say that. I do not have a million friends. And some people, it comes easy to them and they love that, you know, and I'm the core type. I have my core posse.
Do you feel a desire for more friends?
I feel a desire to meet people that are totally into planted aquariums right now.
Guys, again, if you are out there, your target is right here. You
So
want to connect with Mary, where's your aquarium?
I'm hobby oriented or activity oriented,
Yes.
right? So even though I know that it's kind of like your softball example, like when the softball goes away, you know, are they still there? And does that matter? You know, really, I'm more of that. I'm more into the, you know, like, yeah, and I'm also looking for sewing friends still.
Oh, she's still
Harder
looking
to
for
find
something.
than you think, by the way.
Is it easy to find communities through Instagram and through what
Yes.
she's kind of talking about?
And I've used social media to do that, much like how Emmely used social media as a sounding board to put out the call,
Yeah.
you know, and to connect really with other people. That's a great way to do it. I will look for, you know, fellow sewists, as we are called.
Is that the term?
Sewist.
A sewist?
Sewist, yes.
Sewist.
Male, female, doesn't matter, sewist. And, you know, for example, Instagram, you can see where they are. I don't want to sound like a stalker, but I get very excited when I find one in the Pacific Northwest. And there is one person in West Seattle that I found. I haven't reached out to her yet. She might think I'm weird. But
You gotta slide into those DMs.
but the point being is there are ways on social media that you can connect with other people, and maybe that's how relationships can authentically develop nowadays.
Right. For all its downfalls.
Right. It's a great
Technology
tool.
does also have a great tool of connecting us. And I love to
Huge
hear
tool.
how Emmely really made that happen.
She continues to do this. And she found, I asked her, I said, okay, Emmely, your first meetup was early in 2023. You know, how many friends did you end up making? And she kind of threw out a number and she said, at least 50.
Oh, my.
At least 50. And then she said, of course, you know, when you look in deeper, within the 50, there's a tighter circle, a more
Core.
intimate core group of people. But how cool is that?
I love it.
Isn't that so
And
amazing?
she took the initiative to make it happen.
Yeah.
And persevered through the this is awkward. And persevered through the didn't hit the first time or maybe the second
Yeah.
time. She kept going.
Totally. The big takeaway for me after talking to her was, you know, she grew up in Southern California. She had childhood friends there, her relatives all there. She has a loving boyfriend. But there is something about friendships that it's a unique, how do I say this? It fills a void, right, that we all have. And it's that meaning, you know, searching for meaning, searching for connection with other people. Here's what she said about how it struck her when she came back home and realized what she was missing.
If you've tried and it's not working, or whatever method you're using isn't working, then try something else. I mean, I tried Bumble BFF and it didn't work for me. And I did something drastically different. I started a whole friendship group. But if one thing doesn't work, try another. I mean, if you really crave human connection and friendships, you can't give up. You have to keep trying. You have to keep putting in the effort. If not, then nothing's going to come out of it. Before I moved to LA, I was living in Atlanta, and the one person, I mean, I knew people, but the person I was closest to is my boyfriend, and I became friends with his friends. But for a long time, I felt really lonely there still. And I was really sad and I was really depressed because I didn't have my community there. Eventually, I did make a couple of friends, but it was such a small amount of them that I still didn't feel fulfilled. I still felt pretty lonely. So yeah, I know that I felt a certain way when I didn't have my friends in my community, and it felt awful. It wasn't a good feeling at all. And then moving back to LA, I thought that I would have that community again, but it was just very different than what I was expecting. And I found myself feeling still sad and depressed and lonely when I moved back home to Los Angeles. And that was a really hard thing to realize. I thought moving back home was going to make me feel so happy. And it did make me happy, but there was still something huge missing.
I so appreciate her honesty. And then when you think about it, what she's describing, how she felt the loneliness, sometimes it's not even about the friendship, right? It's not about like, oh, do you have one friend? Do you have 100 friends? Do you have 2 friends? You know, she's talking about how she felt on the inside and how you remedy that. And it was just relationships for her.
And not just the quantity.
Yes,
Not just
exactly.
the quantity, but the quality. Because I see how you could get stuck if you're like, oh gosh, well, my boyfriend's friends, are they my friends? Can I add those in my category of having friends? And then what if that were to go away? Then what do you have? And I think it can be very tricky when you're trying to, especially I think when you bring social media into it and you see, oh, they've got X number of followers. Is that friends or feeling that way or that many likes compared to I didn't get as many likes. So I can see how social media could reinforce the idea that quantity is what matters. And Mary, I know exactly about that void you're talking about, and it's filled with quality, not quantity.
And how everything can look great on paper. Sure. What she's talking about, being able to come back home, she's got a boyfriend, his friends, she has friends, but there was that thing that was missing, and how brave and brilliant it was for her to say, I'm going to do something about it because I cannot be the only one.
Or admitting to herself that it's okay, that all that automatic built-in community that she thought was there wasn't there, and admitting that to herself.
Yeah.
And admitting that publicly, essentially, to people by saying, hey, I have this need. Let's see if we can all get together and fill it for each other.
And when she put the call out, turns out she wasn't the only one.
No.
That's the coolest part, is how she brought people together and continues to bring people together.
When in doubt, reach out. Be the person. Be the person to take the initiative. Let's say you did go to the kid birthday party and you struck up a conversation and you kind of like that person. Do they want to be my friend? Take the initiative and ask someone to coffee or go for a walk. Or heck, maybe I ask them to jump in a lake.
Don't call me to do that with you.
Come on, Mary.
I'm going to say no.
It's right there.
I'm going to say no. But what you just said reminded me, though, I think depending on where you are in life, you find yourself needing friends all over again. If you start a new job, if you retire, that's with you. It stays, that need is always with you.
Empty nesters. I think about empty nesters. You think your kids are going to connect you to their kids and their parents?
Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about that. When the boys
what do you do
leave.
when that goes away?
Oh no.
When you hit up the sewing community.
Oh, it's going to be a new hobby by then. I don't know what it'll be.
You'll be a professional by then, I think. You've got time.
Oh, man. So, yeah, what a cool chick. Emmely Avila, thanks so much for sharing your story with us. And thanks to all the people who took a risk and went out there when Emmely put out the call. It's the coolest story I've heard in a long time.
Hear, hear. Hard Turn is a Sinclair podcast produced out of KOMO TV in Seattle, Washington. We're your hosts, Kelly Koopmans
and Mary Naum. Our show is produced and edited by Jordan Rizzieri and Brian Petrus, with engineering support from Adam Bronstein, Bill Thesh, and John Reynolds. Production support from Eric Newell.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode and to stay up to date on future episodes, follow us on Instagram at Hard Turn Podcast and on X at Hard Turn Pod.
You can follow Hard Turn on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you know someone making a big change in their life? Share this week's episode. Your recommendation helps our show grow. So spread the word.
Okay, we are recording on our end.
Hard Turn was presented by Overlake Medical Center and Clinics.